You are now tuned in to Mastering Mitzvahs. Mastering Mitzvahs. A podcast focused on creating the perfect bar and bat mitzvah celebration, offering tips, tricks, and trends to ensure an amazing event. Mastering Mitzvahs. From New Jersey's own Explosive Entertainment. Explosive Entertainment.
I know you're gonna dig this.
And here they are, your hosts, Jordan Marshall and Mike Langsner.
All right, good morning, I guess. Episode 4.
Mikey, we're back. 004, Mastering Mitzvahs, man. This is Jordan Marshall, Mike Langsner from Explosive Entertainment. And thank you guys. Our podcast is new to the world of podcasts, and we've been getting great feedback. And every week just bringing you really cool mitzvah content. So what do we got today, Mikey?
This is our first on-location interview of a good friend and a professional in the mitzvah world, Dave Esquanazi from Aurum Events. And we want to get some input from Dave and some insight, and hope our listeners enjoy this.
Morning.
Awesome, man.
Dave, tell us about Aurum. How long ago did you start this thing, and how did it come to be?
Aurum was a project we started about, I'd say, 5 years ago. And it originally was supposed to be in a different location. And I was out to lunch with a friend of mine, and the landlord kind of changed the deal that we had. And he said, let's go down and talk to my dad. You know him, he'll tell you all about, real estate and how to fix it. And at the time, he was in this building right here, and they were working on turning it into an office building. And I saw the architect and the builder, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, could you do this to the building? Could we raise it another 8 feet? Could we incorporate that building? Could we take this old building? And they're like, yeah. We started going through plans, and before you know it, I started yelling at all the workers, stop working. We're going to turn this place into a catering hall. And they all stopped. They were like, what?
So let's dial back for the listeners that don't know Aurum, because we're hoping that we get listeners all over the country.
That was a nice segue. We're on the same page, man. I was just going to do the same thing, so let them know what's up.
So Aurum is located downtown Freehold, which is a cool little hip town. There's tons of restaurants, bars, and you're right in the mecca of it.
If you guys are familiar with the Hoboken area, like it kind of has that sort of feel, really, really cool shops and boutique-y, and, this spot, Aurum, that Dave was, like Dave's evil brainchild over here, has single-handedly become, in a very short amount of time, one of, if not the hottest new private event space in our area, right?
Definitely throughout New Jersey. So Dave, this started 5 years ago as your brainchild. It was vacant before?
Correct. It was 3 different buildings that we took over. So this building is a historic building. The original part of the building was built in 1850, and then in 1919 became a Model T dealership, and then they added on the back end of the building, which housed the Model Ts downstairs, and then upstairs was like an 8-foot high sized ceiling that housed all the parts for the Model Ts.
It's super cool.
And the front area where my kitchen is was where they changed the oils. There was a trough there, and they had different spots along the different beams that were strewn across here were different spots that they said wash car, change part here, change this part there. But those old 1919 cars didn't have very many parts.
And that's really cool flavor, man. And for as old as the building is itself, I mean, you guys step into this place, it looks like the hottest, most chic, trendy event spot. So literally from the building's history, it's the exact opposite when you step into it. So it's pretty cool.
I remember we did our staff photo shoot here. I didn't realize it was 5 years ago. But
we were breaking ground on it.
We were the only guys not wearing hard hats that day. But dumpsters in here and sawdust all over. It was a pretty edgy photo shoot that we did for Explosive.
And it was really cool just to kind of see the development of it. We here as a brand at Explosive kind of got the first-hand experience to Dave's demo of the building and blowing out the ceiling up top and just making a really cool cathedral-style ceiling and just seeing what it was to what it is that we're sitting in right now is really great.
So Dave, how many events do you do a week? I know it's probably seasonal, and is it mostly mitzvahs?
Every Friday night is generally a Sweet 16, 40th birthday, something like that, and then Saturdays are either mitzvahs or weddings.
Okay.
And Sundays are bridal showers, baby showers, engagement parties, Sweet 16 sometimes, stuff like that.
And again, for the listeners, it's a two-story facility. We're presently sitting downstairs in what I'd call a very chic-looking space, uplighting all throughout, a real modern look with is this real brick or faux brick?
No, real brick.
Real brick.
This is actually original pieces of the actual building.
No.
Didn't you have some of that going on though?
The only original brick is an old chimney against that wall over
Okay,
there.
I knew there was an original piece down
all
here
of
somewhere.
these columns and then these walls here, I brought in from a building in Chelsea that was getting tore down. I had all the brick transported from there to here.
Give us your brick.
Yeah. As they were tearing down the building, I was like,
you
whoa.
need that?
Yeah. I was like, what are you guys doing with that stuff? So I sent a buddy of mine with a big dump truck, and they collected it all, and here it is, all the columns.
Man, it's
That's
cool.
why it looks like it's old brick, because it is old brick.
It has so much flavor, and it really does match the downtown Freehold vibe.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So we're downstairs right now. If you were to go upstairs, what's the square footage? How many guests can you fit?
Depends on layouts. For bar mitzvah, you can max up to 160 adults seated, and kids lounge can max out at about 120.
Okay, so in the 260 to 280 range is max. It sounds like.
You give and play with the take on the both on how to do it.
Okay.
And for those of you guys who don't know, Dave is a master at kind of cultivating and narrating a cocktail style party as well. So when you come to an event like this at this space, you're really not sitting down that long. You're putting down your jacket, taking off your shoes, getting comfortable, but we want you up and moving around and having a great time.
Correct.
So 5 years ago was Aurum. What were you doing prior?
We also own Exquisite Caterers, which is actually a kosher caterer, and we did a lot of bar mitzvahs then through there, and a lot of Jewish kosher weddings.
So would you mind just elaborate on that for people listening that might not be too familiar between kosher and just a regular menu? What does that entail for you, like a kosher style?
Kosher
Okay.
menu would be all kosher meats, which would be certain cuts of beef, soaked and salted, killed a certain way to make it kosher. No shellfish, no milk, no pork. No items, no mixing milk and meat. Staying along the kosher lines, having a rabbi as a supervisor.
So that's great to know that you kind of, you can play it on both ends for a
Correct.
client.
I'll never forget one of your first events in here. You were just so happy to be cooking with butter and cream.
Yeah.
I remember that excitement. So that's cool.
I thought you were just pumped to throw a party on a day other than Saturday night.
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, my wife got used to me being home Friday nights. And
Not allowed to
now
party
I
till
haven't
sundown.
been home Friday night in a while.
That's it.
You're a regular at Sweet 16s now. I got you.
Yeah.
So-
me and Jay laugh all the time. We have a Sweet 16 every night for the rest of our lives.
Oh yeah, that's another great point too. Tell us about. So you have a partner here, right?
Correct, Jay Cobb.
Awesome, nice, and he helps. Does you guys are tackling the same things, different tasks? How does it break down for you guys?
I break it down where I handle all the mitzvahs and most of the weddings. He does all the Sweet 16s, a lot of the 40ths, the communions, and then we split the weddings between us.
And Explosive had a great background with Jay, and Jay came from nightlife and was in the entertainment world. And I think it's so cool that we're all friends and we all have built on this together, through the years too. So Dave, going back to your background,
The roots.
besides Exquisite, which has been around for how many years now?
I started at Exquisite when I moved to New Jersey in 1994.
Okay. But I think you've traveled, right? You've done some pretty cool destination events.
Done a lot I've done quite a few in Aruba. I'd say about a dozen.
Everybody's got to eat.
Weddings, yeah.
So how does that happen? How does a guy from New Jersey end up in Aruba?
So the
How do you keep
first
the food
time-
hot?
How to keep the food hot. The first time was we were brought down by a person that was local over here that wanted our party, but down at the beach. So we were brought down to the Westin in Aruba, and that party kind of spawned into all these other parties. That the hotel loved what we did, and then they just started to sell it and brought us down to basically do it for them.
And
they
that
were
was
bringing
because you were
huge
kosher
clientele.
and they were not, or is that
Correct,
just
as
because
a kosher caterer.
Okay.
So a lot of the South American countries like Venezuela, Panama, Colombia, there's a huge Sephardic Jewish population that's down there. However, those countries, because they are not third world, but not with the security that we have here in the
Correct.
United States,
Right.
they cannot show that they have any money. They walk around the streets with torn clothes, bad shoes, hair in a frizz. You walk around, you look like you have nothing, so nobody will rob you. And then they get on a plane, and the first stop generally is Aruba or one of the American Virgin Islands. and most of them have a house there where they get off and they'll change, and then all of a sudden they're wearing their Gucci and Louboutin and covered in gold and this and that, and they're off to the rest of the world wherever they go, and they go from that point out.
Sounds like the Monmouth County client.
Yeah. So but they can't do that where they are. So none of them would get married or have this true nice wedding in Colombia, Venezuela, Panama, any of those countries there. So a lot of them did go to Aruba because it was so close. It's only a half-hour plane ride for them.
And it's gorgeous.
And it's gorgeous, and they have the security of a first-world country.
That's
nice.
Crazy. So out of curiosity, I mean, how do you do that? We have our own challenges when we do our destination events with logistics and equipment and staffing, but how do you as a caterer go up and work in somebody else's kitchen in a different country and source the food
and still bring the
hardest
product.
part was sourcing food. So that took me about 2 months to be able to get what I needed, and I had it all shipped out of New York, Miami, Texas. We had it shipped from all over, and a lot of it we had to have sent at least 2 weeks prior. All the meat had to be sent frozen because it would have to sit through customs.
Right.
Before it would be cleared and sent off to the hotel.
That's crazy. The
So a lot
client
of
probably
that-
never realizes
None
all
of
this.
them. None of them realized, that it took us, months of ordering and creating all that stuff just to be able to get it there. And then a lot of the small items I just packed and brought with me that I knew I'd never be able to get there. Or
That's a hell of a
buying
carry-on.
a ship. Yeah,
And then there's rumors you've done some work at the United Nations also?
yeah. We're the kosher caterer for the United
Now
Nations.
that's top secret information, Mikey.
Yep. So we do quite a bit of that. When they were building the new building, not too many people know this, but post 9/11, the United Nations was so run down that Michael Bloomberg told them that if you have a fire in that building or something happens, we are not sending first responders in there. So we're going to let you burn down.
Wow.
You better fix this building or you're on your own.
Wow.
And the UN basically, said, okay, we're going to fix it. So what they did was to rehab the whole building. They built another building on the side of it, and it was only 5 stories high. So they built a brand new one, 5 stories high, all modern, high tech, bomb-proof windows, full 9 security, and they started to move out 4 or 5 floors of the building at a time and retrofit the building to today's security standards for a building of the UN should require. So they did that. It took a course of a decade, but the groundbreaking for that original building, we did the party for them because their kitchen at that time was so disgusting. I wouldn't even drink the water.
How'd they find you?
How'd they find us? The Israeli consulate found us.
That's it.
And-
It's pretty official.
Yeah, and they brought us in there, and that's how. And then they loved what we did.
If anybody like that's ever looking for me, I don't want them to find me.
Yeah.
So,
So that's how they brought us in, and so we did that, and they're like, hey, we do this, do you mind building this, as we're building this building, could you, help us out? And we're like, sure.
it's awesome.
That's really cool.
Because, our food for Exquisite, even though it's kosher, you wouldn't know. A lot of these places don't even know that it's
No,
it's
and it's so funny that you were talking about food. I want to dial it back to Aurum and to the cuisine. Like, as the entertainment, and we frequent the spot a lot, and we're here, and I feel like you're always coming out with something new. There's a new menu item or a new style of food that you're doing. I mean, you got this barbecue station all of a sudden that's killing it. Where do you get the ideas for the stuff you want to put on the menu and how you prepare your cuisine?
I come up with different stuff a lot. So I'm a person everyone laughs. I have ants in my pants. I can't sit still. And I
know a guy like that.
I have like 15 ideas of already how I'm changing this place, and Jay keeps yelling. He's like, bro, relax. People still are just learning about the place. Every week we have people like, oh my God, how long has this place been here? We never even knew about it. It's only their first time coming here. So he kind of slows down my progression of change.
I know a guy like that too.
Oh,
So
yeah.
So we balance well. We do a lot of different things, but I do change menus a lot. I would say every 4 to 5 months. Just come in with different stuff, new stuff. If I see,
Do you look for
people aren't
influencers
choosing-
somewhere, or where do you find the ideas?
Just good food. It doesn't have to be catering. I'm anti big catering hall, so we don't choose a protein. Everybody gets the same starch and rolled vegetable. That's not my look. I don't like that. When you order dinners, it's all on different plates. Everybody's food has got different components, just as if you were going out to a restaurant.
Your presentation's gorgeous.
So
It's
why
awesome.
it's why do you have to have catering that looks like catering?
And,
I want it to
you,
be more.
You
of
are a
restaurant.
chef, right? I mean, you don't do the cooking any longer, but you do the menu design? Or?
Yeah, I do the menu design.
Okay.
So for all 3 places, I do the menu design.
That's super cool. So you were going into the future. So, what is the future for Aurum? What do you think? You're looking into this magic bubble, next 5 to 10 years.
To the magic bubble, my next project is.
Well, what are we allowed to
probably
talk
closing
about
out.
right
Yeah.
now? That's really the big thing. What can we tell everybody?
So the next project is outside over here. We have a patio, and then above it, there's a deck that comes out of the ballroom. The deck isn't used all that quite often, so I wanted to kind of make an arboretum out of it and encase it in glass that could be opened into screens for nice time and then closed into glass for cold winter months. So it just becomes another room off the building, which is kind of a cool thing.
That is cool. I think it also helps out too with like the larger parties. I feel like because then you could actually have
it's a
functioning outside.
It's a 16 by 24 deck, so it's a good sized space that's out there. And then when the building was originally designed, because we're in downtown Freehold, we had, even though we made the building bigger, we had to keep the exact same look as it was for historic preservation. So the front elevation of our building has windows, even though on the inside you don't have them. We have it closed off by these wave walls. So we do have the ability to flip the room and then open the windows up and change the whole look, so that I like to go every 5 years. So 5 years when we open, I want to have a new look. So when people come, it's not always the same building. It's not always the same thing, because then you get tired of it. It's like my whole design for this was people are tired of the old square catering hall, the dance floor in the center with the carpet surrounding, and you guys got to bring in uplight walls because it's just a bare, barren thing. Go ahead, go do your thing. It's got to be a little bit more of a modern change, but not 100% into the club, but not 100% of the old. So I feel like we're a good mix of new and old.
For the listeners, Explosive was involved in the sound, video, and lighting install here, and we've got a 90-inch TV above the stage, a 70-inch by the bar. I think is a 42 upstairs in the loft. The sound system is killer. I mean, some of the equipment came out of an Atlantic City nightclub that was only open for a month, I think. I think it was like the shortest.
Wave, right? If you're familiar with the spot Wave that was open for a short stint. That's their sound system.
Sound system is killer in here.
It was used for 8 weeks.
People are like, can you turn it down? Like, we can't. It doesn't go any lower.
we get calls all the time. Like people say, we want a nightclub-like venue, but we don't want to have a nightclub smell. And there's that smell that comes along the nightclubs.
Right.
Spilled beer and back in the day cigarettes. I mean, you've done something here where you have a facility that's neat and clean and very posh, yet it has some nightclub elements, but in much more of a chic way.
Nightlife-esque, definitely. It's great.
So we talk on this podcast a lot about entertainment trends. But what trends do you see in the facility world and the food world?
Well, I guess I'll start with the food. Trends in food are definitely going to the more smaller, more powerful flavor bite versus the, give me 800 tables filled with food and they don't care what it is. They just want to see lines and lines of food. Because that's just being wasteful and, one. And then two, to put out that much stuff costs a fortune, and you're not putting all that quality into it because you're filling up tables of tables.
I think a lot of facilities we're at still have giant cocktail hours, but I mean, you could almost tell that it's reused from party to party.
Correct, and we don't do that, not at all, not even the fruit from the bar do we switch from party to party. All that's tossed at the end of every cocktail hour. They wrap up whatever for the host, and then the rest of it's thrown in the garbage onto the next. Mm-hmm. Even our freezer space here, we have 2 household freezers and our walk-in, and that's the way I like it because I don't want to save anything. My first rule of thumb to all the workers when they sit down here is if you won't eat it, don't serve it.
Right.
So that's our number one. So again, with the food trend, you would have smaller, more
tapas.
Not so much tapas, but smaller, more of a punch of a flavor in each thing. Cooler look. Everyone eats with their eyes first, so it's got to look great, but it's also got to finish.
That's great.
Do you have a favorite menu item right now?
Well,
I know mine.
I think the short rib on polenta as an appetizer is my favorite, or the Cuban flank steak on the fried tostone. with the cotija cheese on top. That's
Or the ribs, or the
one.
skirt steak, or the sushi.
Yeah,
I mean, take
one
your
of our
pick.
new cocktail stations is that Southern Station where we do baby back ribs with mac and cheese and cornbread and collard greens, and it's like a whole deep South station. Like, you know, people really like it. It's fun. It's not your average station. We do a big bone-in ribeye carving station with bacon slab carving and
Barbecues and bar mitzvahs. It's
that's
perfect.
it. It's just, you know what it is? It's just great food that you don't expect to see at a bar mitzvah. It's not your classic corned beef carving station with
Right.
stuffed cabbage. That's not what I like to eat, so it's not really what I push on to people. I want them to see newer and brighter and more fun things.
And I think you hit it on all ends too, because not only is the cuisine delicious, but the presentation, what you like, the big carts you roll them in on. I mean, everything has such a great look, a great vibe. It's super modern and trendy, so it's great.
You know, Dave, you do something different with desserts also. I'd like to talk about that for the listeners. You don't do your typical Viennese where the party stops and everybody has to go into another room. And for us as entertainers, sometimes it's really hard to kickstart the party again. So, you know, what's your approach with dessert?
I'd say about 4 years ago, I got tired of seeing the Viennese table come out, and then it would sit out on the dance floor for about half an hour.
Everything melted.
And then, you know, people are, sticking their finger in the chocolate fountain for the 6th time. And by the time you wheel it away, kind of clean up the dance floor, get everybody ready, set. There's only half hour left of the party.
And the real mystery is, where was that finger before it was in the dessert?
Yeah, that's why I hate that chocolate fountain. And then, then by then people are giving you a kiss goodbye. They know the party's almost over, and the crowd leaves, and it was basically a party killer in my mind.
Right.
So my approach to it was, again, give better items. It doesn't have to be, 18 tables filled with stuff. Give stuff where incredible flavor, incredible richness, where you're really enjoying every bite that comes across. So what we do is we bring out different carts of plated cheesecakes and all these different mousse cakes. Then we do different cups of like a Nutella mousse that we do, white chocolate mousses.
We see people go crazy for it. And
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking on our podcast last week about La Hora Loca. You almost make your own La Hora Loca with food, which is the crazy hour. I mean, it's all of a sudden you guys parade in these foods, and and you make a great. I'm going to use the word spectacle, but in a great way.
Yeah.
You make a great presentation.
Right.
You people are like, oh my god, what's coming out next? It has this awesome.
And then the way that we have the waiters march out with it, so they all come out together when they do passing, they'll come up, 10, 20 of them all together at the same time, passing out stuff when they have their little lighted wands.
It's impactful. I mean, there's even been times where we've had, either one of our entertainers or one of your staff up on the big carpet bed.
Yeah, and the floating carpet.
If
we know that the crowd is good for that type of thing, we'll throw one of your dancers up on the bed.
Because it's all about whether it's food, whether it's entertainment. Guys, you're listening out there, is all about creating an experience, and that is something that Dave and the team do very well here at Aurum.
Yeah, they definitely mesh entertainment and catering together. So for the listeners, how about some tips? Actually, no, going back to just trends for a second. That's food trends. Any facility trends? Anything that you think are hot new buzzes?
On a facility trend?
Or would you do anything
Places-
different? Would you have done anything different if you go back and do it
Would
all
I have
over
done
again?
anything different? I would have bought the building next to us too.
I like
I
it.
would've
Going
made it
big or
bigger.
going home.
That's it. My thing is always go big or go home.
So all right. So how about some tips for families planning mitzvahs? Some things that you wish you could like shake a family and be like, God, I wish you would just listen to me.
Tips is don't give your caterer a timeline. That's the one thing I always despise when somebody comes in. It's gonna be like, okay, at 7:45 we're gonna do this. At 8:03 we're gonna do this. At 8:47 we're gonna do this.
The micromanaging mom.
Don't micromanage the party. That's what you pay us for. That's what we're here for. This is what we do. 3-4 times a weekend, every weekend for the last 25 years. I'm going to let your party roll as it goes. If people are up and dancing and moving, having a great time, I'm not setting them to do candle lighting right now. Let them dance another 5-10 minutes. Let them enjoy themselves, and we'll take it off. We'll move it from somewhere else in the party. that's what we do.
You're not going to
want
tell the surgeon how to do your
that's
surgery?
it. Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah. When the guy's ready to cut your appendix open, say, maybe a little bit more to the
I
left.
have some thoughts before you go in.
So we tell we talk about that on the podcast too. Families shouldn't micromanage. They should tell us what they want and what their expectations are. But you can't minute by minute plan these things. I mean, it happens organically, naturally, and trust your vendors. And let's just talk about synergy for a second. Jordan, I'm going to bounce this to you, but
sure.
The synergy of us as Explosive Entertainment working with Aurum, and let's say the perfect scenario. You've got a photographer that you're friends with, a videographer you're friends with, and tell us about that synergy.
It's huge. It's really big, and we always say that this is, as awesome as the event is on the dance floor, going great behind the scenes is gigantic, because if I know that, at a certain time frame, Dave's coming with the next course, I could prep my dance sets. I know that I could hit a crowd over the head with something big because I have that kind of time and we're good. Versus also, tapping into the photography end, trying to get those shots and, making sure that if we're going up in the chair for the hora, that the chair, it sounds so simple, but the chair's turned towards the camera to get that expression, to get that look, that initial, excitement. You want that. That's like the cover of your album. So, knowing where your vendors are kind of at and having the years upon years of trust, of friendship, of business relationship that we have, just allows us to know a lot about the content that we're all trying to put out, and I think it kind of intertwines us all, and we can kind of almost feel out each other's next move, which is great for behind the scenes.
Dave, you got anything to add to that? Or?
That's it. Just enjoy your place, enjoy your vendors, enjoy the party, have a great time.
It's awesome, guys. Really, really cool. So, again, guys, if you are in the area, in the Monmouth County area, the New Jersey area, and you haven't checked out Aurum Event Space out of Freehold, New Jersey, you're missing the boat on this one. Definitely come through, check it out. Obviously,
Dave, what's the website for people?
I was going to say, give us all the handles.
Aurum.events.
And you're on Instagram, left and right, posting
Instagram, Jay's king of Instagram. It's Aurum_events.
Okay.
And Facebook is Aurum Events and Catering.
If they want to reach out to you via email, like anything to get some information, or
Dave@Aurum.events.
Awesome. Aurum is AURUM. What does Aurum mean, by the way?
Aurum is Latin. So I'm tired of like the old school, everything has to be a name of this catering or that catering. So I decided everything should be a little bit more cleaner, neater.
And in another language, so nobody knows what we're talking about.
Correct. Well, this is actually
less is more.
This was actually a spinoff of a restaurant we almost opened in Manhattan. I was part of a building that was all glass. So I knew I had to play with that, and so I went with Vitrio, which is glass in Latin. And most people in Spanish would know vidrio or vitrio in Italian. So it was old Latin words. So when I originally was ready to open Aurum at my first location before we came to here, it was because it was the Diamond Exchange on Route 9.
Uh-huh.
That was the building we were taking
That was the original, I remember
Yeah.
that.
So it was the jewelry store. So being that I was just ready, I'm creating this restaurant, Vitrio, and then I'm looking over here, I'm like, well, I'm just going to play with the same things that I did over there. Here's this gold jewelry store. So I just went with Aurum, which is gold in Latin. The symbol of gold is AU.
Nice.
And I played with that. So I already opened everything. The whole business was ready to roll until we didn't take the space. And then I moved here, but I kept the name and everything.
That's super cool.
There you go.
All right, I think we should wrap this. This has been a really fun segment and a great first guest on our podcast.
Yep, great way to kick it off. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. And again, obviously, if you need more information, you can reach out to Mike or myself directly. And if you're not subscribing to this podcast yet, Mastering Mitzvahs, make sure you subscribe, download it, play it, let your friends know, tell them what's up. Mitzvah content on the weekly.
That's right. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next week. That's a wrap.